Hello, welcome to Viewpoints, brought to you by Equiture, the leading provider of public safety software and training. My name is Cherie Bartram. I will be your host today. A little bit about us before we get started. We are an international leader in public safety training and technology with products geared toward public safety and providing tools to help responders stay safe and educated. For those of you who are new, we offer monthly podcasts with a variety of guests geared toward public safety topics, as well as monthly webinars and a diverse offering of training courses through our apprentice platform. I encourage you to check those out as well. We have completely redone that platform, and it's very exciting. Today, I'm happy to welcome Sara Weston to the show. Sara is the founder and executive director of 9-1 Wonder Woman. That's pronounced 9-1 Wonder Women, a nonprofit organization that's transforming the landscape for women in public safety. With 20 years of experience in the 911 community, Sara is also the CEO of Sara Weston Consulting, where she specializes in next-generation 911 technology, governance planning, and consensus building. A little bit about Sara's background. She's certified PMP and ENP. She's a Penn State grad who started her career working on public safety radio communications before finding her true calling in 911. What started out as a Facebook group hoping to attract 100 women or so has grown into a community of almost 15,000 women. The 9-1 Wonder Women who support, mentor, and empower each other every single day. Through 9-1 Wonder Women, I stumble on that a little bit, Sara. Sara has created leadership academies, scholarship programs, countless opportunities for professional growth. I'm so excited. I remember when she started, and I thought, wow, that's so cool. She has become an international speaker. She's a mom of 2 and has a mission to open pathways for women in 911 to reach their fullest potential. Sara, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you, Cherie, for having me. Wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, like I told you when we talked before, I do remember when you started, and I thought, wow, that is so cool. 9-1 Wonder Woman, how catchy. I just want to ask you, where did you come up with that title?
My little sister. So, back in 2019, this all started with a session we were going to do at the National NINA conference, and it was called Empowering the Wonder Women of 911. And my baby sister is just like endlessly clever and funny, and it just like came out of her mouth, 911 Wonder Women, and I was like, yes. And yeah, then the rest is history. So I always give her all the credit.
That's great. That's great. So let's start with that journey. You've been in the 911 world for 2 decades, but you didn't start out as a dispatcher. How did you find your way here? And what made you fall in love with it?
Yeah, so I was an IT major in college, and I think it's very like on brand for 911 for people to just kind of fall into it. It's, not something that we hear a lot about growing up and wanting to be like you do a firefighter or a police officer. So that's what happened to me. I was hired out of school into a consulting firm that did technology planning implementation for 911. So for radio communications and then network communications, which is the next generation of 911 technology. So back in 2005, right out of school, I walked into a consulting firm and had a lot to learn. I had a 911 for Dummies book on my desk because I only knew how to call 911. And I just learned on the job, basically, and through people I worked with and through my public safety clients. And as I kind of grew in that position and learned more about what I wanted to do, I started working more in 911 centers. So I would go into the centers, do like technology audits, interview them, ask questions, sit along with them. And I just got to know the people and the job they were doing. Before that, I sat at my desk in a cubicle and like ran studies basically and wrote reports. But getting out in the field and seeing the technology in action, seeing the need for better technology in action and the job that these people were doing, just really, that's what made me fall in love with it. And then I kind of felt like I had a purpose, like I was helping them be able to do the best job they could do. And that became really important to me.
Well, so then you did that. Then tell us the story of the 911 Wonder Women. What was the moment you realized that there was a real need in the community to support a network of women in public safety?
Yes, so basically the first day of my job, not just kidding, kind of. It was hard for me. So my experience was hard because I was in a consulting firm for technology. So there were a lot of women like employed there, right, to begin with.
Right.
Um, but more importantly, I didn't have like a woman mentor to help me like learn what to watch out for, how to speak, how to dress. I had amazing male mentors who taught me so much about technology, about consulting, but I was really missing that piece. Like the male colleagues my age were like golfing with the senior VPs and, doing all this stuff. And I was kind of like, how do I learn? I didn't even know what I didn't know, right? And it wasn't until I started working not only in the 911 centers, but also with other women. So I was fortunate enough to have some clients who were women in leadership in 911. And that changed everything for me. I was like, oh my God, I want to be just like her. Like I can be just like her. And, at first it was kind of like they were um, leading by example. And then I was getting to know them and they were getting to know me and they gave me opportunities that I never would have thought I could have. They believed in me and they kind of took me under their wing because they saw something special in me, especially as a woman doing what I was doing. So that changed my career trajectory. Um, Also, we did hire another young woman at my consulting firm. Her name was Wendy, and she was a lawyer, and she did policy consulting for Next Gen 911. And she's a little bit older than me, and she was such an incredible woman. She was like 100% herself. She cared about other people. She made you feel like there was nothing wrong with you. Like be yourself and also stand up for yourself. Don't let them treat you like that. People shouldn't be treating like you like that. You don't deserve that. That kind of like empowering influence in my life every single day is something I hadn't had. So we became like best friends and I really relied on her and we worked on all of our projects together. I kind of got my confidence from her in a way because she was always encouraging me, even when I was like crying in the bathroom before a meeting, and she would kind of shake me and remind me who I was. And I think we all need that in our lives. I sure did. So, fast forward to about 2019, we were asked by some folks at the National Emergency Number Association to come do a session at the conference about women 911. And that's what the bidding came up, empowering the Wonder Women of 911. And this was June of 2019. And we were putting all this information together, all the things that we had learned throughout our career. In April that year, Wendy passed away from cancer. So, I have a lot to say about what I went through that process, but essentially it went from something that I wanted to do, empower women, to something I had to do. And I'm not saying like was being forced. I just meant like in my soul.
Right.
No one else, she wasn't going to help anyone else. No one else was going to learn from her. So to deal with my grief and like, the loss she was to this world, I put it all into this because I wanted to carry her message forward. I had to carry her message forward. I didn't want it to die with her. So that was probably, the moment that empowering women in 911 went from something that I aspired to do and wanted to do to something like I just had to do with my life. It became a calling and a passion because I didn't want, I want her legacy to live, and I wanted to give people what I didn't have, what I needed as a woman. So that all kind of inspired me and spiraled into what has become that wonder work.
That's beautiful. Really. I love that. Good for you. Good for you. I think that's great. So when you started your Facebook page, was that before you lost Wendy or after?
We had planned it before, but the plan was always to launch it like right after that session that we did together in June at the conference. So we would talk about it there, invite women at the session to join, and kind of make it go from there. So yeah, we officially launched in June of 2019.
Okay. And so what surprised you most about that when you launched it?
So like I told you, in my brain, I was like, between Wendy and I and the people I know, we would invite like 100 women into this group, and we could share stories, share problems, encourage each other. So right after that conference, I went on vacation to Canada without Wi-Fi service for a week. And I came back and there were 1,000 women in the Facebook group. It caught on. It was fire. It was literally lightning in a bottle. And that surprised me. That surprised me. And also, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know how to start a Facebook group. So in my mind, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if people are going to buy into it. It just took off. Like people were posting like crazy. People were connecting. And then, 2019, what happened in 2020?
Right.
The Facebook group became like a lifeline for people to be there for each other and to answer questions. And I didn't know how much this was needed. I knew I needed it, but I didn't know so many people would. And I didn't know that so many people in the community would take ownership of it. Like, this is not my Facebook group. This is their Facebook group. I may have been the one to push the button to start it, but it would be nothing if it were just me in the group,
Right.
Yeah, it shocked me that it was so needed for so many people.
I want to talk to you about the unique challenges that women face in the 911 profession, but I'm going to start it with a little story because over 70% of dispatchers are women, yet leadership does not necessarily reflect that same percentage, right? No, I don't have anything against men in leadership. I don't have anything against men in dispatch. I really don't. But I have to say, I was talking to a fellow leader in the 911 industry, and she has since retired, as have I. And she was talking about all the things that she and I do. We both had to be the, administrator. We both had to do contract negotiations. We had to do all the HR stuff and the schedule, all of these things. And one of our peers, he didn't have to do any of that. Um, and we would go to these meetings in our state, and he would say, we'd go around at this meeting and talk about what we're doing in our dispatch center. And he'd say, well, I had coffee with this sheriff and I played golf with this chief. And we would just sit there and, we'd look at each other. She'd be texting me, how does he have time to do that? uh, it was so frustrating. But where you're at now, what barriers are you seeing? How do you feel like your organization is helping to break them down?
Great. That's a good question. We're not training 911 professionals how to do your job, right? We're not just like teaching QA, teaching how to talk on the radio, teaching CPR. None of that. This is all focused on personal and professional development. So there were a lot of things that I picked up on at the beginning. One was speaking at conferences. I really noticed that the majority of speakers at 911 public safety conferences were men. And I'm with you, nothing against men, but the math wasn't mathing, right? If 75 or 70% of the workforce is women, it shouldn't be the majority of the speakers being men. And it was overwhelming. So the first thing we focused on was speaking. Hey, if you have a thought that you want to present, you can do it. I think a lot of times as women, we think, I'm not the perfect public speaker and I'm not the world's leading expert in this field, so I can't speak at a conference. And that just isn't true at all. So we do a lot of work on what you as a woman already have within yourself to give to 911, and you being a unique person can do it in a unique way. So kind of overcoming that hurdle that we put on ourselves as women, that we have to be perfect for the job to ask for promotion. We have to be a perfect speaker to speak at a conference. That kind of inner confidence and oh, I am good enough. That's something that's really lacking in 911 centers. And I can't say why. I know some of the reasons is they're under a police chief or sheriff's office or fire chief. It's a very paramilitary environment sometimes. And if you're not up there at the top, you think you're not a leader. So we do a lot of you can lead from wherever you are. Your ideas are valid. That kind of thing, which you would think in your mind, you don't know that, but it was just so needed, especially in the very beginning, that kind of encouragement. And then we offer, if you don't feel confident, let's do a training. Let's talk about it. What are you struggling with specifically? How can we provide that? So all of our training that we offer in education, is built from that perspective of what do you need to be successful that you're not getting? And we get that from the Facebook group. We get that from feedback. And how can we provide it? And then I go out into my network of badass women and men and bring them in and, help train people to be able to do that. I just rambled a lot and not sure I answered your question.
No, you did. You did.
Okay.
Right, because I asked you how you did that, and you did. That was good. And I knew that you didn't do the other kind of training. I knew your training was specific, but I'm glad you clarified that for our audience. I think so many times people are like, I got to have training. And I do a lot of training myself. I mean, here at Equiture, I'm always looking for different kinds of training that not only this is how to, and that's great training, but if we can't grow inside, the how to training doesn't matter as much. That was always my thought.
It's so true. Some people don't aspire to leadership. Some people don't aspire to like climbing a career ladder, and that's fine too. But for the people that do, they need to have that fed. They need to have hope. They need to be able to establish a roadmap for themselves to make 911 a career. Otherwise, we're going to lose people with ambition, right?
Right. Well, even for people who don't aspire into leadership, just building your own self up. You talk about mentorship and networking. You may never want to be a formal leader in 911, or I'm going to broaden it. You may never want to be a formal leader in any profession that you choose, but empowering your own self, your core, and growing who you are inside, it's so important. And for women, we might feel isolated in ourselves, but we can tap into resources. And you teach that here, right? How can people tap into their resources?
Oh gosh, so many ways. Okay, so one of the easiest things, I love LinkedIn. I feel like it's of the social media platforms, it's probably the safest place. Still very professional. And that's where a lot of people go to like post professional articles or opinions or perspectives. It is also how I have made the majority of my connections in my career. So I'll give you an example. The former director of the Washington, D.C. 911 Center, he was Karima Holmes. I've kind of been following her career. I just always thought she was amazing. And I wanted her to be involved in what I was doing with 911 Wonder Woman, but I never met her before. So I just sent her, I didn't have her email address, right? We were so far, it was like 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, right? So reached out to her on LinkedIn. And that to me is like just as professional as emailing somebody. It's recognized as a professional way to contact someone. Like, hi, you may not know me, but I admire what you said about this or what you've done in your career, and can we get together on a phone call at some point? That I cannot encourage people enough just to like do that. And you might feel shy or insecure about doing that, but the person on the other end isn't going to be like, who is this contacting me? People are in leadership positions and have been through enough when they're, at that point to want to give back to people. And sometimes they don't know how, and sometimes they might not have the bandwidth, but they can connect you to somebody who can. I have people reaching out to me all the time wanting information about like folks who have retired or other directors of 911 centers, which again, I've never been. But I say like, I send them off to all the people that I know, right? So I would really encourage people to get on LinkedIn, start clicking around, start observing, follow the people that you know, and get in that way. Also, if you do get to go to a conference, the people that are speaking at those conferences don't just go to hear themselves speak. Going up to a person after they speak and saying, hey, my name is Sarah. I like what you said about A, B, and C. I'm trying to do this in my center. Do you have any recommendations or any people that I can talk to? That, you see sometimes people kind of blind up and just speak with the speakers after. And I always say that, like, you're in the same room as the person and you have a leg up on like, everybody else, right? So like get in there, have that conversation. we use the word networking, and sometimes people cringe because you just like, when I hear networking, I picture like a cocktail room with like all of these people in suits and ties, and you standing there like, I don't know who chopped you. Networking is just like taking that first step and reaching out. If you don't know who to reach out to, sometimes it's just that person who's like 2 or 3 steps further down the journey you want to be on than you. Like, say your goal is to work in the private sector. Chances are you know some people who have left an 911 center to work in the private sector. Like, reaching out to them, finding their email or LinkedIn. The one thing I want to say is it's on you to do that. No one's going to swoop in and say, hey, well, sometimes people swoop in and say, hey, I noticed you're really talented and I want to help you. That does happen. I encourage people in that position to do that all the time. So sometimes that does happen, but you have to kind of help yourself along a little bit and figure out what you want to do, the type of people you want to surround yourself with. Same thing with online trainings. I know not everyone gets to go to a conference. Like, you're on an online training, the speaker always gives their email address. I would always recommend, if you like what they had to say, follow up with an email, like as soon as possible. Don't put it off. Just say, hey, I was just in your session. I liked what you said. I have more questions. Whatever it is, but I just really want to encourage people to take that first step in that outreach.
That's great. That's great advice. And I guess for our audience, the only thing I would add to what Sara said is, if you reach out to someone and they blow you off, move on. Because that's not who you want to get advice from anyway. Because, sometimes people are super busy, and at that moment in their life, they just don't have time or desire to talk with you anyway. So, find the next person.
It's true, and I've been guilty of that. Like, just so you know, sometimes on the other end of that email address is like a busy mom working 2 jobs during the
Like going back to school. Right.
But
Right.
yeah, no, you're so right, Sarah. Don't be discouraged if the first person blows you off, or if they're me. Sometimes, like, the person you admire, you don't know, they could be a really big jerk.
But it's true. It's true. Sometimes that speaker got to where they're at and they're super proud of themselves. Move on. Right. Um, so your organization offers some leadership academies and training programs like we just kind of talked about. When you're in there, when you're offering those programs, what are some of the key leadership skills that you and your other instructors try to focus on, that women in 911 need to develop? And do you focus just on leadership skills they need to develop, or on skills just to develop personally to be more well-rounded?
Yes, it's definitely like the whole picture when it comes to leadership. And like, that's even a topic that a lot of people don't talk about too. It's like, there's professional leadership, and then there's like leading of self, which requires time management skills, goal setting, um, being responsible for pursuing whatever education, self-development that you want, right? So that's definitely a topics that are included in our leadership academies, but also leading in crisis. Um, you know, there's a lot that goes into leadership, but in 911 and public safety, there's a lot of crises happening all around us. So leading in crisis, I think, is something that's really important. And the people teaching about this are people who have lived the experiences. And I love that some of the things that they share is, yes, I led my center through like this outage, and it was horrible, and we were getting all this bad publicity, but I was strong for the people at my center. But then I went home and I cried. I cried in my car. I got it, like, I went into therapy, whatever it is. Like, we're all human. And those leadership skills are skills. But also we have to develop the like grace to give ourselves and resiliency. Resiliency as a leader is so important because you get just beat down constantly. And part of being a leader is sometimes taking the brunt of that, not your staff, and taking responsibility. So knowing what you need to keep that resilience up is something that's really important. Leading without a title. That's if you have an idea, if you want to start a, oh God, like a something in your like a turret, or I'm thinking of something specific, like what do you call it? I am so sorry. When you come together and a peer split.
A peer-to-peer support program.
All right, shoot. If you have an idea, like you want to start a peer support program in your center or like a wellness program, in order to pull it off, like you have to lead it. You are the leader. So what do you do? Like, how do you get from idea to like leading a team? So all of those things we talk about, from seasoned leaders and also people who are new to leadership, to teach them skills, but also show them that we were once in your shoes. We didn't start our careers, speaking at leadership academies. You can do this. And I think breaking down those barriers, like what are you facing? So, how to speak professionally, how to present an idea, how to present yourself, right? These are things that in 911, oftentimes, you're behind the scenes. Like you're not out there, you're not visible. And that's something to consider when you're stepping into a leadership role, is how you present yourself fully. So those are some of the, I think, very unique skills that we teach through our leadership academies.
That's great, because like using the peer-to-peer support program as an example, leadership can start that, but as a leader, you really can't participate fully in that program because you can't have you you can't receive those peer-to-peer cry-outs. For anybody who isn't aware of that, the line level staff can't come to leadership and say, oh, I had this terrible call and this happened, because if they start telling you about policy violations, now you're really stuck. They just told you about all those terrible things that they're suffering with, and a whole bunch of policy violations. Now the sympathetic you is like, oh, that's terrible. And now I got to write you up. So it's terrible. So I like that you teach people to start those programs. That was a really big thing for me, is somebody to take that program.
Yes, and it's hard for leaders to reach out for help sometimes.
Oh, yes.
For staff to present to leadership, like, I have this idea and I want to take it and I want to run with it. That's huge. It depending on person.
Because they have to feel like they're safe in that workplace, right? And I know you talk about that too, creating a culture where a woman feels safe enough to speak up no matter what level she's at, ask questions, make mistakes. How do you teach that? And you do teach that. Do you teach that to leadership to create that? Or do you teach that for all levels?
Yeah, so we definitely teach it for all levels. That's a great question, because this year coming up, in the fall, we're going to have our first ever leadership collective that is specifically for women in leadership positions. And it's 911, fire, police, private sector, and government leadership and public safety, to come together specifically, like, how do you solve problems and what can we learn from each other? Because that's important. And sometimes when you're in a room, like club mixed company, like you have some leaders, you have some frontline, it's hard to speak up and have those conversations because of, uh, you don't want you don't want to feel judged. And also you don't want to, as a leader, you don't want to be the one complaining. I use air quotes because it's not complaining. It's, you're reaching out for help, but you want to put on a strong face for your people. So mainly what we've been teaching is how to bring those up to your leadership, but hopefully we'll put together this program that is focused on leadership and how to reach back and bring people with you and how that helps you as a leader.
I really like that because as a leader, in certain cultures, and I'm going to use because I was a leader in both union and non-union cultures. In some union cultures, if a leader reaches out to her, I'm going to say her, people for help, that culture can say, oh, weakness, weakness. And so when we talk about a safe culture, a safe workplace, it really isn't just one way. That safety can be felt in both ways. And I think sometimes we miss that.
Yes, it's so hard. We all make mistakes. We're all human, but yeah, people will latch on to that weakness and use it against you.
Right, right. Whether you're a leader or a line level person, there has to be a feeling of safety in the culture. Um, all right. Well, so you recently wrote about physical fitness. Pushing yourself physically can make you a better leader. I have tried to teach this to my kids. I have pushed it to saying, hey, if you're getting a mental block, if you can't sit still, go out and run. They look at me like I have three heads, not just two. But if you can tell us about that connection, how does training for a 5K, how does that physical activity translate into leadership strength, into clearing your mind?
Yes, I love talking about this. So one of the things we started, one of our very first programs was a virtual 5K. And this was back during the pandemic, still. But we've kept it going because I received so many notes from 911 professionals saying, this is the first time I've ever walked for fitness. This is the first time I've ever made any kind of a goal to move my body, And I think the job itself is so stressful. It's so mentally exhausting that putting another thing on our 911 professionals it feels impossible. But if we say, like, this is for you, if this is your goal, this is something that you can do to feel better about yourself and to perform better mentally, that's kind of flipping the script, right? It's like, oh, so this is something that I can do to make myself feel better and perform better. So the physical movement aspect of what we do at 911 Wonder Women is just really special to me because I have grown up always believing that we have to move our bodies, like physiologically. That's a hard word to say. When we move our bodies, we feel better. We are human beings that have to move, right? So, I struggle with anxiety, and a lot of times I'll call my mom. And I just did this week, and she said, "Sarah, like, go run." It's like, just go run. Like, I know you don't feel like it. Just go run, and you'll feel better. And it always works. I don't love going to the gym. I don't love turning on that treadmill. But I love the result. I love what happens to me because I did that hard thing. So the reason that translates into leadership is, one, doing the hard thing first. So it's like delayed gratification. Like, I can probably feel awesome if I drink a glass of wine right now. Like, in like 5 minutes, right? But I go out there and I push my heart rate for 20 minutes. Like that feeling afterwards, it's like not only do you feel better, but you're like, oh, I did a hard thing. And every time you do something that maybe you don't really feel like doing or is really hard, there's a feeling of accomplishment that nobody can take away from you, that nobody can say, oh, well, she didn't do that legitly. She like, she's a ladder climber, like she cheated. There's no cheating. There's no cheating when it comes to physical fitness. So, um, I think talking about, like walking the walk, like I'm not saying you got to move your body. I'm doing it. Like I am, when you talk about leadership, it's like, don't ask someone to do something you're not willing to do yourself. So going out there and doing the hard things, then I come back to my job where I'm encouraging and empowering women to do hard things. I feel like I can do that because I've done that myself, right? So that is a lesson in confidence and courage, like putting yourself out there to do something hard. And then setting goals, like I'm going to run 5 minutes today, walk 10, run 5, walk 10. Accomplishing goals, whether that be in your professional life or your personal life, whether that be like a mental goal or a physical goal, every time you accomplish something, that builds your confidence to do other hard things too. So specifically for leadership, I think that aside from like getting that stress out, when you're there in the moment and you want to quit and you're like, no, brain, like I can run 20 more seconds. It's a lot like me sitting in front of my computer working on this leadership collective or our conference and being like, nobody's going to come, nobody's going to like it, everyone's going to hate it, everyone hates me. And like flipping that and be like, no, Sarah, like keep going. So there's something obviously physical, but also it's a mental training that will come in handy no matter what you're doing in your career, in your life.
I like that. It's funny that you're talking about that. We at Equiture, we just received an email this morning that, talks about, preparing yourself and just do something to get ready. I mean, it's, a lot of time people do New Year's resolutions. I personally have never believed in them. I judge my resolutions by my birthday. Like, okay, what am I doing this year? Okay. And so I prepare for the next year by my birthday as opposed to January 1st. But um, you know, 10 minutes, just do 10 minutes. Everybody has 10 minutes. And then, what are you going to do tomorrow? Can you fit that in? And of course, when you're talking about physical fitness and feeling better, like you just talked about, that 20 minutes is the sweet spot. If you can get there, you, you're better off than you were 2 weeks ago.
Yes. And I remembered something else too. Like when I don't feel like doing it at all, I'm like, hey, do it 5 minutes. And then you can quit if you want after that. But like once you get into it, you're like, oh, I'm doing it. It's the same thing with difficult tasks.
Yes.
Like I have to do a county, right, for my business. Look. So I set my phone, Sarah, just do it for 5 minutes. And like, lo and behold, like you get into it and you're going. And the other thing is about being prepared. Like, again, I talk a lot about confidence, and people are like, well, how do you gain confidence? You prepare. So say you want to start a side hustle or you want to apply for a promotion. Like you spend that time every day preparing. Once you get into the situation, you can fall back on all that preparation you did. You can fall back on yourself because you put in the hard work. And again, no one can take that from you. No one can take away what you know. No one can take away what you've done. my friend Leah always says, luck favors the prepared, because that's the hard work. And that's what most people are willing to do, is put in all of that work before you get even to the starting line. And that's, physical fitness is a metaphor for that, and also a habit that helps you build that.
Right. And a lot of what you're talking about too is like muscle memory. So when you get to that hard interview or that hard task, you are so prepared that your mind will go right into it. We do that with dancing. I started dancing 5 years ago. Never danced professionally or, any of those ballet, tap, all of that. And my old brain struggles with that, whereas my 17-year-old's been dancing since she was 3. Her feet just do that stuff. But it's being prepared, and it's really no different than anyone, when women want to step into a leadership role, and they don't feel ready or qualified. You prepare, train, take those leadership classes, do what you're teaching here, prepare yourself for growth inside, not just the, supervisor 101 class, right?
So much to consume right now. There are amazing books, amazing podcasts you can just listen to while you're walking. You can prepare physically at the same time.
Right.
There's TED Talks, YouTube. It's just a matter of like blocking those 10 minutes every day and being disciplined enough to do that. And how that will change you and help you reach your goals. You said you can't even fathom it when you're starting out, but it's probably the number one thing. This nonprofit exists because I started getting up an hour earlier and for like 45 minutes a day, just researching. This wouldn't exist if I hadn't done that. And anyone can do it.
So where do you see yourself? Where do you see this going in the next 5 years? And while you're answering that, how can people get involved to support you?
Yeah, so we are like officially this month 5 years old. So I've done a lot of looking back at how far we've come and where we've slipped up and where we've found success. And I try to use all that information and that data, right, to project forward. So 5 years from now, I would really love for our training and education to be more widely known. We offer virtual training once a quarter, and we get like anywhere from like 80 to 130 people registered. And I think it's a really great way to consume training and to learn. So I think awareness is probably one of my biggest goals moving forward, and continuing to improve upon the in-person education that we do. So this year was our first ever national conference, and that was amazing. It was so cool. We're going to do that every other year because it was a lot of work, but I really want to grow that. I really want to start encompassing more public safety, too, so that we can learn from each other. And I would really love like one of us to be full-time. Like I have, and there are 3 of us right now. We're all part-time employees. But, we pay our speakers. We have paid positions, and I want to empower women that way too, and give them more opportunities to do what they love. So, I just want to continue to learn and grow the programs that are needed and continue to evolve, as needs evolve. And, we're very like versatile organization. You can pivot very quickly. And I want to maintain that as well. So how can you get involved? We always need help. Every year we do a fairly robust scholarship program. We're in the middle of it right now. We usually distribute about 26 scholarships per year and growing. And so we need people to review scholarship applications. We do a couple of events every year, and we'd love for people to help out with that. Joining our Facebook group or, promoting our programs. We always need people to help spread the word that these exist. We try to make them easy to attend because schedules can be really hectic. From the private community, from the private sector, we can only do what we can because we get sponsorships. So every single one of our programs are sponsored by our vendor partners. We have a list of them on our website. So every virtual event, every in-person event, we have sponsorship that helps us cover our costs, helps us pay our speakers and cover those costs. So any kind of support in that way is helpful. And also feedback. Hey, we always, always, always welcome constructive criticism and feedback because we're doing this for the community and we are the community, and any kind of help in that way is always appreciated.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being with us today. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And I loved hearing your story and everything you're doing out there. I wish you'd come along sooner.
Thank you. That is such a compliment. That means a lot. That means a lot to me. And, I always try to surround myself with people whose mission is to leave 911 better than we found it. And we're not always going to enjoy the fruits of our labor because it's kind of for the next generation. But it's still worth doing, and that's kind of my goal. So thank you for having me on, and thank you for sharing my story and allowing me to talk about 911 Wonder Woman.
Absolutely. I meet people like you, and I always think of my professor when I finished my master's degree. He got up there and he said, "No, this was your last class." It was the capstone class, and he said, "This is your last class. You are all, you've all earned your bachelor's or your master's degree. Now, go out and give back." And I don't remember much about that class. But I remember that. And I meet people like you, especially now that I'm with Aquiture, and I see people like you all the time going and giving back, and I just applaud you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so for our audience, I hope you enjoyed our presentation today. I hope you enjoyed meeting Sara as much as I did. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Sara at her website, or you can reach out to me and I can put you in touch with her. C. Bartram, CBartram at aquiture.com. If you are interested in becoming a presenter at Aquiture for a podcast or a webinar, please reach out to me also, and I'll be happy to talk with you. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.